They say silence has a sound, that if you're quiet long enough, if the world around you goes still, you'll hear it. In Japan, there is a place where that silence doesn't wait for you to find it. It surrounds you, smothers you, and it doesn't want to let you go. Aokigahara. They call it the suicide forest. It stretches out at the base of Mount Fuji, its trees so dense and twisted that daylight barely breaks through. Even in the middle of summer, Aokigahara feels cold. The forest floor is uneven, covered in jagged volcanic rock, coated in moss. GPS barely works here. Compass needles spin uselessly. And cell signals? Forget it. You don't just get lost in Aokigahara, you disappear. Some come for the thrill, ghost hunters, curious tourists. But many come with a different purpose. They walk into the woods quietly, slowly, alone, carrying backpacks filled not with camping gear, but with final letters, ropes, bottles of pills. People don't bring tents here to sleep. They bring them so no one has to find them in the open. And many are never found at all. Every year, the forest claims dozens of lives. Some estimates say more than 100. Authorities stopped publishing the exact numbers years ago to avoid turning it into a macabre competition. But locals know. They've always known. And they've always feared the forest, not just for the suicides, but for something older, something deeper. Long before Aokigahara became infamous for death, it was already a place of sorrow. Centuries ago, during times of famine, families would sometimes practice ubasut, the act of abandoning an elderly or ill relative in the mountains to die in order to save food. It was seen as a grim necessity, a sacrifice, but those who were left behind, their spirits are said to have never left the forest. They weep in the trees, moan in the wind, follow travelers who stray too far from the trail. Locals warn never to enter alone, never to go off the marked path, never to ignore the signs. But the forest does something to people. It quiets their fears, it lulls them in, and then it keeps them. Search teams, usually made up of volunteers and police officers, patrol the forest regularly, but they don't come at night, and they never go alone. One man who spent years helping to recover bodies told a reporter, "It's not the dead that bother me, it's the ones who come here thinking they're already dead." He said the forest has a way of numbing you, making you forget what you were so desperate to leave behind. He once found a man sitting cross-legged beside a tree, eyes closed, a small smile on his face. The rope was already around his neck. He hadn't jumped yet, but he wasn't moving, wasn't blinking, just waiting. The rescuer sat with him for hours, until the man finally looked up and said, "I didn't hear you come in," as if the forest had kept all sound for itself. Sometimes people leave trail markers behind them, bright plastic tape or string tied to branches. It's meant to help them find their way out. But rescuers say they've found countless lines that lead in circles, or disappear entirely, as if someone or something had untied them. There are stories that don't make the news, stories shared in low voices by those who've been there. A man who followed a path deep into the woods and found a clearing filled with dolls, old, rotting, nailed to the trees, their eyes scratched out, some with their mouths sewn shut. He turned to leave and swore he heard the dolls whispering behind him. A hiker who stumbled on a rusted tent, half buried in leaves. Inside, an unopened bottle of water, moldy crackers, and a journal. The last entry: "I thought it would be faster." A woman who came back from a search, shaken and pale, swearing she saw a young boy standing between the trees, crying. But when she called out to him, he vanished. Later that day, they found a child's shoes in that same spot, but no body, and no missing person report had ever been filed. Then there was the teenager. He went in with friends on a dare, only he didn't come back out. Not for 3 days. When he did, he wouldn't speak, wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep. Doctors found no injuries, no trauma they could detect. But at night, his parents said he would scream in his sleep. Wake up clawing at the floor, shouting, "It's still looking for me." People who have visited the forest say it feels like being watched. Not by a person, but by the forest itself. One woman described walking along the main trail and suddenly feeling every hair on her body stand up. "It was like something behind me took a breath," she said. "But when I turned around, the trail was empty." Japanese spiritualists believe the forest is thick with eerie, restless spirits unable to pass on due to violent or sorrowful deaths. They feed on fear, on sadness, on despair, and they draw the living toward them. In one report, a man who survived a suicide attempt in the forest said, "It felt like someone was behind me the whole time, like I was being pushed, not physically, but emotionally. Like the forest wanted me to do it, like it was tired of waiting." Aokigahara has become a paradox, a place of nature and death, of peace and pain. Tourists snap selfies at the trailhead, couples visit the nearby ice caves, and just a few yards off the path, someone's child, someone's sibling, someone's parent might be hanging lifeless from a branch. The police no longer post warning signs in English, only Japanese. The signs say things like, "Think of your family. Your life is a precious gift." But the people who come here? They've already made their choice. And the forest knows. One YouTuber once tried to spend the night in Aokigahara. He laughed at the ghost stories, brought snacks, a flashlight, even a Ouija board. He made it until 2:37 a.m., then his camera shut off. No warning, no error, just dead. He bolted out of the woods so fast he left his pack behind. Later, he uploaded the footage. Nothing unusual, until the last frame before the blackout. There, behind him, in the shadows, was a pale face, watching, mouth open, eyes black. Skeptics say it's superstition, that Aokigahara is just a sad, quiet place where broken people go. But those who've been there, they don't dismiss the stories so easily. Because it's not just about death. It's about the forest itself, the feeling, the silence, the sense that you're not alone, even when you are. It's the way your heart starts to slow as you walk deeper in, how the air feels thick, heavy, how your thoughts turn inward, dark, quiet, resigned. Like something is whispering to you, not in words, but in feeling. Stay, rest, let go. And maybe that's why so many never come back. Aokigahara doesn't scream, it doesn't chase. It simply waits. Visitors say there's one moment that seals it. Not when you see a noose swaying in the wind or stumble on an abandoned shoe or wallet, but when the forest goes utterly still. No birds, no rustling, no insects, just a silence so complete it feels alive. And in that silence, some say you'll hear something behind the quiet. A whisper, not in your ears, but in your mind. Not a voice you recognize, not even a language you know, but a feeling, a suggestion, a pull. And once you feel it, you never forget it. Some escape, most don't. And the forest never forgets a visitor, whether they leave footprints or bones. Thank you for listening to The Lantern's Tale. Subscribe for more true stories, if you dare.